Welcome, everyone. My name is Rande Howell with My Trader's State of Mind, and we are here to look at mastering trader psychology. And particularly, what we're here to look at is how to develop the ability to maintain emotional control in the heat of the moment. And to start with, I want to thank Investor Inspiration and Renee in particular for making this opportunity available for both you and for me. So, here's the deal. How many times have you used the words if or if only to describe how close, yet so very far you are from the next level in your trading? You know, that level might be hitting consistent profitability or sustaining a level and going to get to another level, okay? Whatever it may be. The thing is that ultimately, somehow, it's those dreadful emotions that keep getting in the way. Okay, let's look at that right now. And let's see what it's going to take for you to maintain emotional control. First is this. Intellectually, trading looks easy, okay? Just knowledge and a numbers game, that's pretty much it. Traders, truthfully, as they come into trading, have no idea what they're getting into. They're sold something where all you have to do is this, man. You know, once you do this, all you do is you ignore your emotions, or you know what? There's no need for emotions to show up. Just kind of keep them at bay. You can do this all day. And then people get into trading and discover they can't do this all day. They discover that, my gosh, the success that I've had in other areas, the same rules of success, the same laws of success that have helped me produce success in one area, those very rules now are counteractive to me. And you can see all the ads and the pitches, you know, it's the impact of emotions that's ignored. While trading is presented as an intellectual exercise divorced from emotion, what happens is that until you start trading live, a lot of times you ignore that, and suddenly things happen. All of a sudden, you just absolutely get hit, knocked upside the head by emotions. And because what happened? I have no idea. Well, let's take a look. Okay? The moment that real risk enters the situation, everything changes. Take a look at this image. You know, you think about it, these guys over here on the left, they're in this kind of like a safety area, and a pretty good sized shark's coming up. You know, something, it may even trigger some stuff, but they've got cameras, they've got the stuff, and the truth is there's no real risk. That shark can't produce biological threat to you, okay? However, take a look at the one on the right. Now, there's no cage there. There's no safety there. There's no reset button. Okay? So this is the difference between simulation and live trading. The risk is real, and suddenly the emotional brain takes over, your survival instincts take over and blow out your ability to think clearly. Okay? So what are we going to do? Okay? You can face that great white shark every day in your trading. And the truth is that your limbic brain, your emotional brain, is going to always look at that great white shark, that risk, as biological threat, when in fact it's only psychological discomfort. But the thing is, once the survival instincts kick in, the trading mind's lost. It's all biological threat to the emotional brain. This is what you aren't prepared for when you start risking capital and you've got real skin in the game. So, in the heat of the moment, your rational mind is just absolutely torpedoed. This is the moment that you're faced with the realness of threat, that emotional hijacking occurs, okay? And so your body reacts instinctively, not like, oh, I think I'm going to have a reaction here. No, your body reacts instinctively. And then you act on instinct, and before you know it, you've been hijacked. And the more you push against the emotion trying to control it, the stronger the emotion gets until it hijacks you out. This is what people run into all the time. They have no idea of what they're getting into in trading. They have no idea how to deal with emotions because they don't really understand emotions. And you experience this automatic biological response to uncertainty daily, that white shark, always, okay? As a trader, you practice managing uncertainty and risk, never comprehending what you've got yourself into. You know, you glibly think, oh yeah, I can talk the talk, I can talk about, yeah, this is all management of risk and stuff like that, and no one trade really matters, blah, 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 blah. Well, tell your limbic brain that. It's not going to believe it, okay? But this is what has to be controlled. This part right here, down at the bottom, where it says uncertainty plus risk equals imminent biological threat. That's what your emotional brain is seeing when you put risk, and it's real, into the thing about uncertainty. Okay? And that's why people have so much trouble. And you go, well, how does this all work? Well, what I want to share with you is this. This is often called the three-legged stool of trading. And the very first thing, what you see there, is that, yeah, you have the things that you know about. You know the trading system, that platform, and it takes a while to get that platform so that you can use it like really proficiently. You're not fat thumbing anything, and you got it so that you're not making mistakes. And you also have that business of your methodology where you learn you're supposed to be follow my rules. You learn how to manage risk, and you go, okay, now I have the management of risk. But what everybody does, and it's not, in some ways, it's not their fault, but they just have this idea that somehow it's going to be different for me. I don't know, I just don't hear all the stories about all these people that go into trading and blow up their accounts and they're gone in 3 years. What happens is nobody includes the trading psychology, actually your beliefs in action, because ultimately your trader psychology is like a race car driver. Your platform and your methodology are an incredibly great racing machine, but somebody has to drive it. And if you put me, who's used to driving Toyota Camrys and stuff like that, into a car that can go 200, 250 miles an hour, you're going to find out someone who's totally unprepared to be able to drive that machine to its potential. And that's exactly what's happening with traders. They get into trading, they don't understand the dynamics, the need for probability management. They need to alter the brain itself and the mind that emerges from that brain in order to be able to manage probability rather than the brain that's stuck on trying to control outcome. This is where the problem is, okay? This is where it's called trading psychology. And that it just keeps raising its ugly head, and it spoils the dream, okay? And no one wants to talk about it. You get around traders and they talk about trading, and it's really like a bunch of fishermen getting around talking about the one that got away and all this, that, and the other. But the truth is, once you learn how to trade, the most important part of trading is emotional discipline. The psychology of trading. Can you manage yourself so that you can use the platform and then the methodology? Because otherwise, what's going to happen, you and your rational mind will want to exclude emotion at an uncertainty encounter. And the truth is that that's very dangerous. This is the glitch that crashes the dream, okay? Until you solve this problem, you're not going to make it as a professional trader. But don't trust me. Trust the truth revealed in your trading account. It will not lie to you. But in this image right here, what you're looking at is what happens when information comes into the brain and it passes a particular moment And what happens is that, hey, the thinking brain, your higher cortex, man, it's just disabled. And what you're doing is you move all that information into the fight flight area. Okay? That's your limbic system, that's your amygdala. And it happens in nanoseconds to the point where, let's take a look at this even more closely. Okay? Here's the deal. I want you to look at this very careful. The problem can be solved and how to get emotions, okay, and the thinking brain to create the probability mind. But this is what happens right here. I want you to look at this. There's sensorial information coming into the brain. That's what you're seeing. That's what you're feeling. That's what, that's all that stuff, all that information you're feeding into your brain. Where does it go? It goes to the thalamus processing area, part of your limbic system, part of your emotional brain. And this is often known as the traffic cop. It stops traffic, redirects traffic, and it's also gut level analysis, not thinking, gut level. And there's a decision made. Literally, I want you to look at that on the left in 12 nanoseconds or less. Or if it's going to send it to the brain, to the higher brain than what you want working while you're trading, it takes 24 nanoseconds. I want you to understand that once the thalamus makes a decision, is this a threat or is this something good? And understand, it's going to see uncertainty. And when you're risking capital, it's automatically going to say threat. Well, that's the low road. Boom! The information is right down to the amygdala. The amygdala hits the adrenals, and boom! You're in fight, flight, and you're either freezing, running, hiding, submitting, or you're attacking. If you've ever revenge trade, if you've ever overtraded, if you've ever been absolutely stopped in your tracks from being able to pull the trigger, you know this fight-flight response. Happens all the time when the brain perceives threat. The thalamus perceives threat, okay? And you don't know how to regulate it. You don't know how to work with it. And there's the problem, friends. Nobody coming into trading except for some genetic people who won the lottery can manage that. And yet people talk about it as if it's not a big deal. It's a big deal. Because ultimately, this is where the hijacking occurs, right here. And if you don't learn to stop the low road, that's what the thalamus is going to do. You're going to have to learn how to regulate it. You're going to have to be able to have freedom, not from emotions, but of emotion, and start bringing that neocortex, your reason, your logic, into the game. And what you end up with, instead of the reactive survival brain, that the reason you're here listening to this, want to learn how to deal with that, you end up with the probability brain. That, friends, is what has to learn to happen. And the problem is this, is when information gets to the thalamus, it's not in your awareness. So this stuff's, boom, happening in nanoseconds, and it's not even in your awareness, and the game's done before you even wake up and realize you've had an emotional hijacking. Friends, the brain you brought to trading is not going to produce the mind needed for success in trading. You're going to have to build it. And this right here is what you're going to have to rebuild. This very piece right here. It's this vulnerability, this cause lack of outcome control that triggers the emotional brain to fight flight. The brain deplores uncertainty, friends. It wants control, either by perfectionism or I can make it happen, by the alpha or the perfectionist. And without control, the brain is plunged into vulnerability, and this is where the danger is, which is directly linked to the fight-flight response. You triggered this response every time you experience self-doubt or grandiosity, every time you hit uncertainty with risk on the table. You hit this, it hits the vulnerability. And so let's take a look at more about this, okay? Because actually, when we're doing it, we're saying, okay, what we're saying is this vulnerability of not being in control of uncertainty has to be addressed in order to change your frame of reference. Because here it comes. There's an event that activates uncertainty. You feel vulnerability. That's a given, friends. If your brain feels uncertainty, it's going to feel vulnerable. Right then and there, right there, that's the point that you have to learn to make a difference. If you let it go with the default program that you came stock with, it's going to see it as a threat to survival, and it's going to activate the fight-flight stuff, and it's all curtains after that. That's your emotional hijacking. However, at vulnerability, if you teach yourself to turn toward that vulnerability and you recognize, I can't control outcome, but I can control the mind that I bring into the moment. And I need to have a disciplined curiosity. And you learn how to produce that. What you've done is you've produced the approach motivation, okay, that gives rise to the probability mind. Let's look at this more closely, okay? Traders tend to experience the dark side of this phenomenon all the time on a daily basis. Okay, but understand this, before we get to that dark side, I want you to recognize this, is that until you solve this problem, your trading plan is incomplete. It's missing a huge hole about the way your body and your mind react to uncertainty. Great performers like Roger here know that they have to evolve their psychology to get to the next level. My question is, they know it, do you accept it? Okay? This is the big deal. This is the thing that keeps you from the next level. And I want you to look at this quote. Under pressure, I can see things very clearly. That's trained, okay? A guy like that has been reorganized to be able to perform at the highest levels. He's learned from his mistakes. He hasn't run from them. So what we are ultimately asking, that's saying that it's really necessary, is we have to learn to use emotional programs to build the trading mind, okay? And I want to tell you, our work, the work of Trader's State of Mind, teaches all this, okay? This is the deal. This is the essence of emotional regulation. Understanding emotions and cognition, how they're interrelated, how they're built upon one another. Because ultimately, what you discover is this, it's all thinking is emotional state dependent. You need to be in control of the emotions that are triggering toward uncertainty to be able to control the mind that you bring to manage uncertainty. That's the way it is. There's no escape from emotion, but there is freedom of emotion. And this is where we're going. Well, you know something? Randy, you've been talking about this, and I can hear some bad news here, and I can see the need to self-develop. But how do I go about doing it? Well, what we're about to lay out is exactly what we teach at Trader's State of Mind, okay? And these are the skills of self-mastery. The very first thing is you're going to have to learn emotional regulation. You're going to have to be able to take that emotion and not let it build and just sweep you away. The second thing you're going to have to learn is mindfulness, a very different understanding of the mind, where you begin to recognize that you can step back out of thought. You can step back out of identifying yourself with thought. You can begin to see, my thoughts and I are not the same. Boy, that opens up a whole nother river, doesn't it? Then you also use that mindfulness to start discovering the submerged internal dialogue. And you will know that by this self-criticism that lives within you, or this grandiosity that lives within you. More about that a little later. But what happens is, then mindfulness, you also learn to start freeing your heroic nature from exile. You start realizing, wow, there's a lot of stuff in there. It's my job, it's my duty to develop myself to access the emotional programs that give rise to the mind, that give rise to the probability mind. That's what we're doing. You're going to learn to embrace the internal struggle heroically. You're not going to, it's not going to disappear on you. You're not going to walk into the sunset. The challenges of trading, of life, are always going to be there. But this is really about, what mind are you bringing into the moment of that challenge? Okay? Do you have struggle that is honorable, or do you have suffering because you refuse to accept what you're looking at? So, if you understand that emotions are at the root of your cognition and color what you think, if you get that, what we also understand is this, is that we are not rational beings. Okay, I know that everybody wants to think they're rational, and I know economists for many years acted as if, assumed that people would really make decisions from a rational point of view, and finally emotional economics showed up and realized that people didn't make rational decisions at all. We are emotional beings, and we rationalize, but we are not rationally, naturally under pressure. That has to be taught. Fundamentally, what it really amounts to is that the emotional brain makes the decision, and your thinking creates a story to support it. And if you want to take a look at that in action, look at it when you decide not to get in a trade, yet you got all the confirmation you want, it fits all your criterion, okay? Or when you've gotten into a trade, it goes against you, and what you decide to do is give it more, even though your rules tell you very plainly that you need to have a stop there, you need to take the loss before it expands. But somehow you create a logic, a rationalization that keeps you in the trade, and you double down. You don't give up on the trade when you should have. That's the power of emotion over rationality. So, where do you start? Where do you start? The first step to rebuilding the mind, right, is in emotional regulation. Take a look at these two guys. One's in fear, one's in anger. Neither of those emotions are going to give rise to the mind you need to manage uncertainty and risks. Traders don't recognize emotions until there's an emergency and they have been run over by a freight train. Okay? Nor do they know how to calm them down. They've been trying to push them away and ignore them, and as if they were not there. Friends, this has to change. Okay? Until you can calm the intensity of an emotion, the untrained trader is going to be at the mercy of fight-flight emotional hijackings. It's just that way. And we start with emotional regulation. What I want you to do, and you can do this tomorrow, when you're in front of your computer, when you're watching your setups, when you're doing this, I want you to watch your body. I want you to watch your breathing. I want you to look to see that you become fixated. You're just staring at the screen, and it's just like tunnel vision. Then what I want you to do is to start noticing the muscle tension. And if you really want to do this, get a mirror. Just get a mirror from your bathroom, like a shaving mirror or something, and put it on you so you can watch your face. And I want you to start seeing the tension in your face, and the jaw, how you clench, the neck, the shoulders, all that. That's emotional arousal, friends. That's the trigger. The emotion has triggered. It is gaining strength, and it is about to explode and get into the body and hijack all your thinking. Okay? And the key is you literally get sucked into this emotion. Yet at the same time, by breathing, you can arrest this effect. It's called the relaxation response. It can be taught. We teach it. So the thing is the deal is we want you to learn how to regulate the intensity of the emotion so that it does not take over the trading mind. Okay? That's the first step. It can be taught. We teach it. Then we start using the body to manage the biology of the emotion. And again, as you watch yourself tense, what I want you to do is to breathe diaphragmatically. Okay? That's into the belly, expanding the chest, release. Ultimately, what happens in that way of breathing forces relaxation, forces calmness, whereas fear and anger need a holding of breath, or it needs like a panting high breath. Also, fear and anger need muscle tension, preparing the big muscles for fight or flight. A calm state of mind with that breathing, the diaphragmatic breathing, doesn't have that. And you literally can impact the emotion just that way. And try it tomorrow, okay? It's my free tip for today. Now, once the biological system is calmed, the mind can be approached. This is where it gets interesting, friend. And this is actually step 2 in our group course and our individual courses. And this is when we start getting way past, it's like, okay, boy, this is a lot more than just a little bit of breathing exercise. Oh, this is where he's asking me to really take a look at, what makes me human. Mindfulness is the human faculty of being able to step back out of thought and recognize that you and your thoughts, you and your beliefs are not the same. As a matter of fact, this thing you call you is not a permanent thing. It's fluid if you know how to work with it. And you can reorganize that potential of that you into another potential self. That's what we call the probability mind, or the trader's state of mind. And once you grasp mindfulness, you're no longer a slave to historical patterns. Okay, I want to talk about that a little bit more a little bit later. But why don't we go to this? Because this mindfulness section is so important. Mindfulness allows you to see where you're stuck without judgment or blame. You simply notice what you have not been noticing, not as who you are, but as one potential organization of a self from adaptation. This is really powerful, friends. People get stuck in emotional patterns and they think, oh, well, this is just me. I'm just kind of a victim. Oh, this is just me. I just jump into trades. No. That's an organization in response to uncertainty based on certain beliefs, and it can be changed. And looking at this, excuse me one moment. When you begin to look at it, you can see how the brain creates a frame of reference that gives you tunnel vision. Look at this. We have a dog and we have a human going for a walk. You know, the dog is just dogging around and he's completely there in the moment and stuff like that. Meanwhile, here's this human walking in this beautiful setting, and that mind is in all sorts of different places. If it's an anxiety, it's way out there anticipating dangers that haven't even occurred yet, or thinking about, oh my God, the past is going to repeat itself. You do not see reality. You know, what you see is a world that is created by a virtual representation the brain has created based on its beliefs, its biases, and assumptions. You have never seen the markets. What you have seen is an interpretation locked in that causes you to perceive the markets in a particular way. And fortunately, in trading, as opposed to life, trading has a report card. It's called your trading account. If those assumptions, if those beliefs, if those biases are effective, and remember, they're just a virtual representation and are projected onto the markets, what you're going to see is a growing, healthy trading account. If the reality you perceive created by your virtual representation is not working or very effective, you're going to see a stagnant account or blowing up accounts or bleeding accounts. That's how you judge. So you decide if you're mindless or you're mindful. The key is there's no way out of this. You're not seeing the markets, friends. And what happens is your trading account's telling you how effective this reality you've created that you think you're seeing is, and the ability of extracting capital out of markets. It's black and white, friends. It's not like life where you can fool yourself for years and years and years. This is powerful. Listen, I hope you are. The next thing, in mindfulness, you begin to learn that the brain really is a committee of rival emotional programs that give rise to thoughts in the mind, and that really thoughts on a biological level are just behaviors. They're what neurons do. They're electrical energy whapping between synapses. And in the mind, this thing created called the mind, that all that electrical energy is given voice as your thoughts. I know that sounds weird, but I want you to think about it. This is one of the biggest concepts in my work. You are only one potential organization of this community. If you've ever seen the film Inside Out by Pixar Disney, you'll see a beautiful representation of how these emotional programs get together, duke it out to create the mind of a person. Very powerful. And the thing is you have to be the designer of the players who create that mind. And right now, you're not. You can learn, but right now, if you're having trouble, you're not. Then with this mindfulness, what we're going to do is discover the internal dialogue. This is all the talk that's going on inside the brain, and it's also the dominant players that have kind of taken control of the committee, particularly under stress. And so now you're up there and you realize, I'm going to have to learn how to look inside. I'm no longer using mindfulness to observe my body or my breath. Now I'm using it to observe thoughts and beliefs in my mind, not as who I am, but as one potential organization of a self that trades, that needs to be redesigned. Wow. Wow. And where do you start? I teach people pretty simple. I'm looking for them, once they got mindfulness, once they grasp that they do not have thoughts, thoughts are having them. They do not have emotions, emotions are having them. What I'm asking them to find is the inner critic and the adapted voice. Okay? You will know these. The inner critic, you will know this one. Have you ever fell into self-doubt? Oh, should I? What should I do? What should I do? Oh my gosh, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? Have you ever found into grandiosity or euphoria where I'm going to make it happen? I see it in front of me. I'm going to grab that trade. I'm going to make it happen. Yeah, that's the inner critic. That's an emotional program living in the brain that has in it, it wants your destruction. Okay? That's what it wants. Lots of people call it different things, but it's a voice inside the head, and it's going to keep you small. And unfortunately, it was there when you first started listening internally, and it's hard to even recognize. It's just so ubiquitous, you wouldn't know it was there. Also, the adapted voice. When you experience fear or you experience euphoria, what you're doing is you're experiencing this adapted voice in the form of what I call orphan. Okay? Friends, this is what's been dominating your trading mind, because your observer in mindfulness hadn't woken up, and this is just kind of what happened while you were asleep. You need to wake up, okay? Ultimately, you inherited these self-limiting beliefs from your history. You got born into a family, you got born into a culture, you got born into circumstances, and you learned, okay, about your inadequacy, about your need to perform to prove your worth, your need to perform to prove that you matter, and also not to acknowledge the powerlessness over outcome that we human beings have, okay? Because ultimately what you discover in trading is this is an adventure in managing randomness. What you have is an edge in randomness. And if you keep your act together, you can exploit that edge. But if you don't, it's going to seize you. So you got this, but what happens is that they're not you. This is only the default programming that's whispering or shouting in your mind's ear, and it is keeping you, I promise you, from your potential. So, freeing heroic nature from exile. This is one of the powerful things. As you develop the observer and as you develop the ability of recognizing, oh, this is emotional programs, you start realizing they're emotional programs you can bring into play to create the trading mind, okay? You can be the designer, okay? And what you've got is wow, something, I can build a mind that engages probability. And it becomes, well, what kind of mind do I need to build? Okay? But what I want you to see very clearly, in the same way that judgment and fear and grandiosity live in you, so do courage, so do discipline, so does self-compassion, and so does impartiality. And friends, it's the courage, discipline, self-compassion, and partiality as emotional programs that creates the mind that deals with probability and uncertainty really well. So they're in there, okay? They're wired in there on your genome. You're going to have to wake up, though, become aware enough to start saying, I need to bring those emotional programs forward to create the thinking, the mind that I engage uncertainty with. Yes, friends, that's the trick, and we can teach you how to do that. So what we got is that these are resonant programs, and suddenly what you discover is that, we need the courage of a warrior. And this is when the emotional program, and I teach something called symbolic representation, where suddenly the courage is embodied by the warrior. You need to be able to turn and face your fears. You need to be able to face that dragon. You need to face the inner critic. At the same time, you need the discipline of a ruler. And I define discipline, by the way, as the ability to maintain order under pressure. And I'll give you an example. Like George Washington, the thing is the guy had a ragtag group and stuff like that. And basically, if it weren't for him, we would not be having a United States right now. In the same way that if it weren't for Winston Churchill, most likely we'd be speaking German right now over here in the United States. But at the same time, there is something called self-compassion, self-soothing, self-nurture of a caregiver living within you that can be activated. So instead of dressing yourself down, bawling yourself out, cursing yourself out when a mistake is made or you lose, what you do is you nurture, you self-soothe. I've never known a person saying, I just do so much better when I beat myself up. No, that's not the way. Self-compassion, self-soothing is the way. So ultimately, when you calm, when these three emotional programs or archetypes are activated and they're building the mind, fear is taken offline. The limbic system cools down. And what comes forward is impartiality, clear thinking of the sage. Friends, this is what you want. This is the rational that you want to be able to trade effectively. These are the programs, and what we do is we teach you how to access these, how to nurture them, how to bring them up to create the working mind. So, when it comes down to it, a new committee of the mind has to be built. There's no way around that. What I want you to do is take a look at this competition sailboat here. What you're looking at is a crew of people in it. Okay? There is a ruler. There's the captain. Okay? He's maintaining order, and if you take a look at this, there's a lot of pressure going on. And this is not friendly seas. This is not, everything's just copacetic. No, this is some serious stuff going on. Everybody has to find their internal warrior because everybody's looking at this thing going crazy. It'd be easy to fall into fear and lose your wits. At the same time, what they have to do is, in order to not lose your wits, you have to be able to calm yourself down. Calm down now. Calm down now. Easy, one step at a time, one step at a time, one step at a time. And calming that down, you take fight, flight away, and you come back to the ability of building the mind yourself rather than default programming. Calming that down, suddenly you're going, wow, I can think clearly. I can, if I think clearly, if I have that impartiality, I will have the kind of judgment I need to make the best decision I can. Okay? So ultimately, what you're looking to do is to perform. You want to be able to perform in the challenges of uncertainty and risk. This is the performance mind. This is the probability mind. You do not control outcome. That's the thing that the brain wants. That's what it's programmed to do. It wants control of outcome. It wants to predict outcome, and it wants to be right, even if it has to lie to itself. So the appearance is that it's right. It will do that, and it will set you up for failure. That's what happens when you take an untrained mind and move it into trading. It's still a caveman, okay? It's acting caveman survival mode. It needs to, and it needed to because it was a dangerous world. Yet, in this sailboat, you don't need a caveman. What you need is a captain with nerves of steel and can command people to do what needs to be done at the moment. You need someone to self-soothe and calm down people so that they don't lose their wits. You need courage. You need to find courage to face the uncertainty so that it doesn't turn into fear. And you need impartiality. You need to think very clearly. It's just like Roger Finneker was saying, when the stress really gets on, I slow down and I start thinking more clearly. Sage is showing up. Everything is into performance mind at that particular time. Friends, if you're willing to learn to look where you don't want to look, you can learn to do this. Okay? You can learn to do this. The key is this. You have to be willing to master your dragons. You have to be willing to master yourself. Because ultimately, there's going to always be struggle. That's just simply the way it is. Maybe you don't like the word struggle. There will always be challenges. Everybody meets the challenges of life. And they're going to come with you. Like one very wise man said, is that you don't need any more trouble than comes your way. Okay? And the key is you can't stop the challenges from coming, particularly when you're in trading, where literally this is literally about the management of uncertainty, the management of randomness, learning how to lose very well. And that's one of the biggest things that happens, is that a lot of people simply don't want to lose because they want to be winners, and they discover that a winning mindset gets them into bunches of trouble in trading. A master trader is an incredibly good loser. He realizes that when his hypothesis is wrong, he needs to get out of that trade with a small loss rather than compounding it with his arrogance, with his grandiosity. When he does get lucky or whatever, and things go his way, the probability actually goes his way, he lets it ride. He's not attached to the winning or the losing. He's attached to the performing. Okay? So we know that the challenges are still there, but a new mind engages them. This is the power of emotional freedom and self-mastery, friends. And the best way I know to describe it, a trader is a lot like a surfer. You know, the surfer is intentional as a practice. A surfer and the wave. The surfer does not control the outcome. He does not control the wave. It's gigantic. He controls the mind he brings to the performance in that wave. That's what's happened in the same way that a trader does not control the markets. He does not make the markets happen. What he does is controls the mind he brings. This is the key, friends. As you learn that, you can become a very successful trader. The last skill, okay? There is going to be a committee of the mind that's going to show up to manage uncertainty and risk in your trading mind. That's just the way it is, okay? With an empowered mindset, you approach uncertainty from a position of discipline, of courage, of patience, and partiality, rather than fear or aggression. What we know is that you have not brought the right mind for trading success, or you wouldn't be here. To be honest with you, very few people bring the right one there. People like to support a few things where, you know, this guy made $1 million, he did all this and that and the other. And what happens is there's hundreds of thousands of millions of other traders who blew up. And there's one example of like an outlier way out there. And what we want it to do is wake you up and start designing the mind so that you can do this correctly, so that you can build a mind that truly engages uncertainty. So friends, if you recognize that you need to do some self-development, okay, here's what I ask of you. If you're a beginning trader, go to my website, get the free book, okay? And there's my website down at the bottom. It's www.mytraderstateofmind.com. And, you know, look at all the free stuff, the videos, the articles, maybe get the book, Mindful Trading, but get the free book for sure. But if you've been trading a while and you know how to trade, you just can't do trading under pressure, okay? And if you're serious, first thing, read the book, okay? That's the second thing. And then what I want you to do is say, you know, start looking at the courses, because in the courses you're actually taught how to do it. You're actually taught the techniques, you're actually taught the process that allows you to redesign, reweave the mind, okay? And if you're serious, ask for a free consult. Go to the website, and hit contact us and say, I want to learn more about this. I want to know if you can help me. I want to know if I can build the mind that I need for success. Okay? And my question, are you ready to develop it? And here's the deal. It's quite a ways away. We have a class beginning in January 17th, and it's our group course, and it's the one that was built to be what I would call cost effective, and it's a great course. It teaches the skills needed, and it works in a group setting. It has 5 different meetings over a period of 2 months, and you have a virtual classroom that you go to. It's very powerful. All the stuff's taught, and you have access to that classroom 24/7. A lot of people will, and it's called at your own pace, they will start now. They'll start soon, because when you come to this course, we expect that you already have the emotional regulation training and have been working with it for 2 weeks. A lot of people show up late and they struggle in the course. What very smart people do is they say, you know something, I want to do it on my own pace. I want to do the group course, but I want to start now. And by the time I get to the group course, I want to be going back through it with you rather than the first time hitting it cold. We encourage that. And if you do it early, basically you're going to get a free gift from us, the Emotional Regulation Workshop. And you can go and buy it right now for $199, or you can get it free when you schedule early for the group course. The other thing is the individual course. If you're serious about this, and if you have the available $3,500, this is the deal, is that it's incredibly comprehensive. It's very personal. It comes with 10 consults with me, and it's like nothing you've ever seen in your life. It gets that mentorship. It has you and I on Skype together for 10 consults of a period of 3 or 4 months. Powerful stuff. Okay, and you go to the free consult. You just go to the website, you'd contact us. So what I want to do is I want to thank each and every one of you for coming. I know this is powerful, and a lot of times when they first hear this stuff, it's go, whoa, my goodness, I had no idea. Well, this is what's been happening in your trading, whether or not you were looking or not. Until you get the management of your neurobiology through emotional intelligence, you're going to have a hard time changing the way the limbic brain, the emotional brain, processes information. You can do this, friends. And what I want to do is I want to thank you for coming. And what I'm going to do is it's time for me to give this back over to Renee. And Renee, I thank you guys very much. You do a wonderful service. And I'm just very happy to be a part of this. And I wish each and every one of you absolute prosperity in your future. And I hope to see you.